What's up, guys? Welcome back to YouTube. It's your boy Rahul. With another video. I know I just put out one today. I'm probably gonna put this one out tonight. We'll keep it going. I know I've said Malamar is bad. I still firmly believe Malamar is bad, but I think Malamar is a deck that you guys need to be worried about. And I think the best version so far has been the Tina Chomp version, because the Tina Chomp version gives you a lot of good answers to big tag team hitters, especially Reshizard, with your GG end, because they can't just sit there and build up one big Reshi. So this deck is, in my opinion, I think the best Malamar variant compared to the other ones. Psychic being a close second. I haven't really been a fan of Ultra too much. I haven't put too much time into Ultra, but this is where I am at in terms of decks. So let me give you the breakdown on Tina Chomp. So you've got this bad boy, Tina and Garchomp, two pretty badass Pokemon. Now, linear attack does 40 to Pokemon. You don't really ever use that unless you open him. Calamitous Slash is really good because it does the 160 base, and it has plus 80 if they have already damage on it, which you're already synergizing with spell tags and Giratina. So it's very easy to get the 240 damage up, which is perfect. And then GG End says discard your opponent's Pokemon, all cards attached. And so usually I'll just pick off something like a really big Choo-Choo on the bench that's being powered up, or like another person's Chomp Tina or something like that. You don't ever get the secondary effect off because you don't play 4 fighting energy, because there's 3 extra fighting energies. So which is the reason GGN never gets pulled off for the second effect. But if it did say 3 extra energy, it would actually be insanely broken. So that's your like main cleanup attacker. You don't ever use this guy more than once, really, but having 2 gives you the option to use 2 potentially, and and makes it so you don't lose if you prize one. You've got the Marshadow Machamp GX. This guy is insano because he's really good against the Pikarom matchup. By just going revenge and popping something in the mouth, and you can just get that guy out of nowhere and just get 3 free prizes. And if Pikarom doesn't have an immediate response, you can just attach another fighting and go 100 blows impact and take another 3 prizes or 2 prizes or whatever you need to do. Alchemy of Heroism is not great, but I guess you could use it now that there's not that many guest effects. Yeah, it's also really good against, this card's really good against Dark Box because it's a free revenge knockout. If you already get some damage peppered in with the spell tags and stuff like that. There's one Dedenne, because I think Dedenne is really good for having the draw option in the deck, and you already play a lot of P-Coms and stuff like that. So it's great to have just another card that digs through your deck. Sure, bench space is definitely an issue, but Malamar does have a weird to late mid-game where you don't really do anything. So that's where Dedenne comes in handy to actually allow you to go through your deck and find those last little pieces you need to actually do something. There's 2 Jirachi, because I think in Malamar decks you need Jirachi still, but you don't need more than 1 or 2, because Jirachi is only really good in the early game to find your turn 1, turn 2 supporter, because Malamar really stumbles with that early supporter count, and if you don't find that, all of a sudden the game could be over. Yeah, so that's pretty much why that's there. There's one Esper. I think this is one of my favorite cards in any Malamar deck, and I think this is required in every Malamar deck, because Catterday is actually just like a really good attack to start the game with, to just draw an extra card and just, because usually you can pull off 1 to 2 Catterdays for free. And then you have Ear Kinesis, which is really good, because like Pikarom has the most mobility out of any deck in the format, and that's why it's the best deck, one of the top tier 1 decks. So when you move the Pikarom out of the active, there's no real way to get it because Malamar doesn't play gust effects. So Ear Kinesis, that's when it comes in handy and just smacks a Pikarom on the bench. There are 2 Giratinas. This is 1000% your main attacker. There's no reason not to play Giratina. You never play more than 2 though, because you don't ever really need more than 1 at a time, and it's the most versatile attacker because it can keep recycling itself. You get the 2 damage on with Distortion Door, already making life easier. Sure, you take 4 damage counters, but like with less gust effects in the format, and Zapdos not really being a deck of its own volition, the 4 damage counters matter a lot less where you put them. The only thing is, like, in some matchups you don't want to put them on the active, which is the only thing. And in some matchups it's just like, be careful about where you put them, really. Just a lot of the time it's usually going on my active or one of my Malamars, just because it doesn't matter if they go on a Malamar. The mirror is the only little tricky thing to do math stuff. In the mirror, I think you just throw on the active every time. There's a 4/4 Malamar line. Because you need to get Malamars out. How are you going to get Malamars out if you don't have a 4/4 line? You got to have this bad boy with Psychic Recharge. That's about it. You got to have it. You got a Mew. It's got Bench Barrier. I'm not sold on the Mew entirely. I had a Ditto slotted in here. But the Mew has been proving okay to close out games against Pikarom. And I think just having this card to ensure that your Pikarom matchup is better is fine, because you can also use him to use Psy Power early in the game or mid game, setting up for your Calamitous Slash and other knockouts that you can do perfect number with. So I think it's fine purely because you have the Giratina Chomp and you have the Esper, who both already capitalize on having damage counters on Pokemon. So Mew plus Spell Tag can give you 7 free damage on something, and then Ear Kinesis can come in and do 140 to that guy on the bench. Yeah. And then you have 4 Acro Bikes. I think you need 4 Acro because it's very consistent. You need to get cards in the discard. Malamar is one of those decks where you need to play a lot of 4 off so you can find those cards. So a lot of the times in the mid game, you have really weird, clunky hands with a lot of these Pokemon or a lot of these like duplicate cards you play in your deck that don't do anything. So you need to be able to get through your deck early in the game. There's 4 Treasure and 4 Calm. I think that's just super, super staple in Malamar decks, because 4 Treasure gets you pretty much everything in your deck except for, these 3. And that's where the Calms come in handy if you need to find these guys. But the Calms also let you get, the missing pieces for your deck. Yeah. There's 1 Reset Stamp. I started out with 2, inspired by Pablo's article, because I think the 2 stamp was really cute, because I originally didn't have any stamp in Malamar, and I felt like I was losing a little bit because my opponents had whatever they wanted in their hands. But with 1 stamp, I feel like you can kind of swing the game back into your favor by using it on a really crucial turn, and like throwing up like the Calamitous Boy or like the Marshadow Machamp, and hoping that they don't have the response, because they would need like a 2 or 3 piece combo to kind of get where they need to be. Yeah, I have 3 Switch. I would like a 4th one, ideally, but I think 3 Switch is also just fine, because everything in this deck is so bulky, especially the Giratinas and the Malamars and stuff. So a lot of the time you need to be relying on the Switch to get out of the active spot and make something happen, honestly. Yeah, it's just one of those cards that I think is a necessary evil to play. I'm not really a huge fan of playing only 3, but I would rather have 4 Stadium Count than 3 Switch than the other way around, because I think the Stadium Count is insanely, insanely important. 4 Viridian is so good just because you're going to end up discarding 1, and you're going to get into a Stadium War almost certainly, and you are going to be the person who like always, always, always puts down the first Stadium, because Viridian is so crucial for your strategy of just thinning cards, getting energy, putting those energies in the discard, being able to Dynamotor, or not Dynamotor, Psychic Recharge, being able to get that Giratina in the discard easily, so you can do Viridian to get the Giratina in there. But the Viridian has so many uses for this deck that 4 Stadiums I think is so insanely important. I have tried 3 Viridians, and I can personally tell you when I was at 3 Viridians, it did not feel good knowing that my 4th did not exist. So like if I got into a Stadium War that I knew I wasn't going to win, all of a sudden I just knew I wasn't going to win. Like if Pikarom plays 3 Stadiums like they do, the 2 Lysander Labs and the Thunder Mountain, then I can't win the Stadium War if I'm only playing 3 Stadiums. And if the Lysander Lab sticks or a Thunder Mountain sticks, I lose the game. And against Reshi, they play 5 Stadiums, so I'm not winning that Stadium War anyway, but it gives me a chance to do something with that. So I don't know. I think 4 Stadiums is incredibly crucial. There's 4 Cynthia, good supporter, need it. 4 Lily. I hate Lily in this current format with like a passion. I think Lily's just bad. But this is one of the few decks where Lily actually is good, purely because you play so many cards turn 1. You have so many playable cards. You have all these cards are playable. Malamar's the only like non-playable Pokemon turn 1. You have 4 Acros, 4 Treasures, 4 Calms, Spell Tags, Energies, Boards, Viridians. Like almost the entire deck is playable turn 1, which is what makes Malamar so an option, because a lot of the early game you were playing all your cards, and I think that's fine to just play everything down and put yourself in a good spot. So you always get off a Lily for some value. I found myself Lilying for 5, 6, 7 even. Never 8, I don't think, because I would like to keep something like a Malamar, because you don't have any recovery in this format. But you often find yourselves Lilying for more than 4, which is, I think this is the only deck that consistently does that on the turn 1 if you can get that combo. Whereas things like Pikarom and other decks just don't get as much value off Lily. And late game, Lily also has value in this deck because you will be having like Treasure to thin cards, Viridian to thin cards, Calm to thin cards, attaching energies. Like a lot of the time, you will have lower hand sizes and be able to capitalize on those. There's 2 escape boards. I don't think you need more than 2, because it's just you just throw them on Jirachi, throw them on an Esper, throw them on the Dedenne. You can even throw them on Inkay or Malamar to have a pivot, which is fine. I think you just need to put the boards down when you get them. Just have a pivot, and that's really important. There's 3 spell tags. I would like a 4th, honestly, because the spell tags do make a huge difference in a lot of matchups. Because spell tags coupled with Giratina do put a lot of pressure on your opponents, and you do a lot of constant just chip damage over time. But with the context of this deck being not Psychic Malamar, you have the Calamitous Envoy, and that's your main win con, as well as Marshadow Machamp and Ear Kinesis. This is fine. This is fine the way it is. There are 3 fighting energies, because Prizing one sucks, but you only need 1 for each of these guys. But there's a chance you may discard, or like things get weird, whatever, you know. I've always found myself being like, man, I want more than 3, but then I'm like, I actually don't really need more than 3, you know. There's 6 Psychic, good number, it's fine. 9 energy is the correct number, I think, in Malamar decks. You don't really need more than 9 because you have the 4 Radiance to search energy. And once you have energy in the discard, you're just playing with the same guys over and over again. So it just becomes easy. That's my GGN list. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, subscribe, check out my Twitch, check out my Twitter, check out my socials. They're all down below. I appreciate you guys a ton. Just leave a like. And thank you guys for watching. And until next video.